course. Shabbat Shalom.
August babies, I feel you. Yeah, great. I mean, great. Are you all set?
An envelope for me? That's so nice. You didn't have to. Absolutely. It is. Totally it is. No, we totally are. Like, how did we get this? Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, friends.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good to see all of you. This is all a plan that D.A. Bragg and I hatched this evening. D.A., you should know that this is often one of the smallest, lightest attended Shabbatot of the year because they've been having to listen to me for a whole bunch last weekend and a whole bunch more this weekend. They're like, we're taking Shabbat off, but they're not taking Shabbat off because you're here. So nice plan. Thank you so much. We're grateful that you're here and members of your team as well. Susan Hoffinger, Mike Mead, Meg Reese, Julia Maenza, and Lexi Stern. Glad that you're all here. Grateful to Simon Ostrower, who is helping the visual tefillah, and Jonathan Chamberlain and Amy Schwach from our team, who are welcoming everybody, and Michelle Sarandi and Rob Saperstein from our board, and Jamal, who's helping everybody online feel comfortable, and Brendan, that's making it all sound good, and all these amazing musicians. It's a cast of thousands. For those of you who are watching online, welcome, and a reminder that closed captioning is now available through our YouTube page, so you can turn on the closed captioning if you want. It's my privilege to invite forward our president, Seth Frank, who's going to bring a word of greeting.
Good evening and welcome. Welcome. It's a very exciting evening for us, as Rabbi Mosbacher just said. I don't think most people take Shabbos off, but it is usually quieter between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so we're excited to have such a great contingency this evening. We do want to congratulate and welcome the families of Sloan and Kate, who are sitting right up here, and so welcome, excited, good luck. I'm sure it will go great over the next 24 hours. I'm sure you're prepared. You look like prepared kids. We do want to welcome Saran and Ruth. They are celebrating their 67th wedding anniversary. Where are they?
They're over there.
67th wedding anniversary. That's a long time. And then, of course, we want to welcome D.A. Bragg and his contingency this evening. We are so excited to have him. There will be a conversation this evening a little bit later in the service, after the service, that discusses some of the information that you may have seen in the New York Times yesterday about recovering some art from the Holocaust period, which is so welcoming and so exciting for us. And the last thing I'll say is you should feel very secure. We do have a TST, our own security team, but there's a whole lot of big guys in the back who are keeping an eye on us this evening, so welcome. So Rabbi, with that, I'll turn it back to you, sir.
Shabbat Shalom. We want to invite Sloan and Kate and their parents, Andrew and Jennifer, and Sid and Jennifer, to come on up to the bima to help us with candles and kiddush.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done.
And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Yes, I need the cup. Thank you.
All right. Now we're ready.
Now we're ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratavanu
Shabbat kosho be'ahava uvratzon Kin hilanu zikaron L'maseh v'reishit Ki hu yom tehillah Lemikraye kodesh Sefer litziat Mitzrayim Ki vanu v'ata Ve'otanu kidasha Mikol ha'amim Ve'shabbat koshecha Ve'ahava uvratzon Inhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen.
We continue with Kabbalat Shabbat. We invite you to sing with us.
Lay, 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 lay. לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור ותימור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ויצירה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בניך, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבת בחירה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בעורק קומי אורי, 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 בשיר דברי, כבוד אדוני יגלה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
We rise and greet the Shabbat bride facing the door.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. טוב אמונה, עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. As we greet Shabbat, we also greet one another. Turn to all the people around you, wish them Shabbat Shalom. You can reach across the aisles if you want and wish someone across the aisle that you don't know Shabbat Shalom. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated, and when you're ready, please be seated. New York Times, September 17th, 1956. Ruth Haber, a bride, married in Tarrytown to Dr. Saren Jonas, an intern. Tarrytown, New Jersey, New York, September 16th. Miss Ruth Haber and Dr. Saren Jonas were married here this afternoon in the garden of the Tappan Hill restaurant by the Reverend Kenneth Stein. Dr. and Mrs. Fred S. Haber of Yonkers are the bride's parents. Dr. Jonas is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Myron Jonas of New York. Dr. Haber escorted his daughter, who had Mrs. Harvey Fishman for her matron of honor. The bridegroom's brother, Gerald Jonas, was best man. The ushers were Dr. Edgar Haber, brother of the bride, Alan Jonas, cousin of the bridegroom, Edwin Klein, and John Firth. Mrs. Jonas is a senior at Barnard College. Her husband is an alumnus of the Horace Mann School and Yale, where he was elected Phi Beta Kappa. He was graduated also from the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Columbia University. He is serving his internship at Bellevue Hospital, New York. Not too bad. I heard it was a great wedding. I'd like to invite Ruth and Saren, who are still the newlyweds, to come on up to the bima for a special blessing. Come on up over here. The internet is a wondrous place sometimes. You can find things there that are useful. All right, come on over here next to Ruth. We are honored that Saren and Ruth are celebrating 67 years of marriage and 47 years as members of Shari Tefillah by my math, which is also wonderful. So it's our honor to celebrate with you on this occasion. I think you told me that you met because Ruthie's brother, Edgar, was a classmate of Saren's in med school.
That's right.
And the story that you can ask them about later is that they said it was love at first sight the second time. So you'll have to ask them about that later. I asked them the secret to being married 67 years, and they said health and love. That's a pretty good recipe. So we're celebrating with you, and by extension, Elizabeth and Frederick, your kids, and your grandkids, David and Zachary and Elizabeth and Timothy and Julia, and your great-grandkids, Maeve and Eloise. They will show you pictures if you beg them to. We are so glad to be able to celebrate with you, and we want to offer this blessing for you on this special occasion. Misha Berach, Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzhak, V'Yaakov, V'Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Ruth and Saren, who are here with gratitude for all of their blessings their 67 years together have afforded them. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One of Blessing, protect and deliver them. May they continue to enjoy God's blessings in the new song of their years to come, embraced by the love of their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so that they may always live in joy and gladness and peace and companionship. And let us say, Amen. And this is the talit from your bar mitzvah, 1944. Okay. Ruth, can you come under this talit too? Okay. Because we want to offer this blessing for the both of you on this occasion.
Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha ken yehi ratzon.
May God bless you both and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka ken yehi ratzon.
May God lift God's face to each of you and bless you, each of you, with peace. As you've been blessed these 67 years with each other's companionship, may you be blessed with many more years together of health and joy and of all good things. And we say together,
Amen.
Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. I'm going to take this back. Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Yehlanu. Mazel Tov. Congratulations, Mazel Tov.
We will continue with the Baruch Hu, and we invite you to rise.
That was sweet.
Please be seated. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam vaed, ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We continue now with our prayer that we sang when we crossed the Reed Sea into freedom. We sing together, Mi Chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norot tehilot u'sefer malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe. hazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai. Kol Yisrael, Amen. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. Ve'ha'amidenu malkeinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen.
In a moment, we'll rise for the tefillah. There are the words on the screen, but actually there are additions that we add just on this Shabbat for Shabbat Shuvah. Those words I don't think will be on the screen. So if you want to make sure, they are in the word?
They should be.
Fantastic. Okay, well.
I don't want to promise it, so.
Fantastic. In that case, let's just stand for tefillah. Please rise.
Adonai Svatai Tiftach Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ufi Yagid Adonai Svatai Tiftach Adonai Svatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Ufi Yagid Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol ve'Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Hasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geola Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, le'manecha Elohim chayim. Melech ozer u'moshiach אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מחיי חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אף הרחמים, זוכה יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום להללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We'll now take a few moments for silent prayer. This is time for Tfilat Halev, the prayer of the heart, the prayer where you listen to whatever you're feeling at this moment, whether it's pure joy, sadness, despair, hope, worry. This is the time to reflect on the emotions and the goings on around you and see if you could maybe connect with God or something larger than yourself. We'll take a few moments in silence.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום, לטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובחושה בשלומך. לחיים ברכה ושלום, ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ברכה ושלום, ניזכר ונכתב לפניך, אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ושלום. ברוך אתה אדוני, עושה השלום.
We now take a moment in our service to think of those in our lives who are in need of healing, whether it is healing of the body, healing of the spirit, healing of the soul. We pray for our loved ones. We pray for the caretakers who care for them day in and day out. And for those for whom healing is not possible, we pray for peace. If you are thinking of someone right now that you're praying for, I invite you to share their name with our congregation as my eyes meet yours. We'll join together in our healing prayer, Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Just as we join together as part of our community for the times that are difficult when we're praying for those who are in need of healing, we also join together for the happy moments in our lives, the joyful occasions. And at this moment, if anyone is celebrating a simcha, a joyful occasion in your life, I would like you to please raise your hand and share with the community so that we can all enjoy the happiest things that are going on. And I see Jolie's hand first. So Jolie. Sloan's bat mitzvah. Very exciting. And Cooper, do you have one for your sister?
Yeah, okay.
Kate's bat mitzvah. Amazing.
Cooper, you got your cue. Very nicely done.
Very good. And I know we're celebrating an amazing anniversary over here. Fabulous. Who else? Yes, Michael. Granddaughter's second birthday. Mazal tov. Amazing. Who else has a simcha that they would like to share? Wow, surviving the UN General Assembly. That's a big deal. Amazing.
I'll drink to that, my friend.
Do we have another simcha, another happy occasion to celebrate? Yes, please. Lynn. Granddaughter turns 18. Wow, mazal tov. That's a very good number. Excellent. Yes. Amazing. Family and friends from out of town. And now we can really appreciate that more than ever before, right? Being able to gather with our loved ones in a way that we haven't been able to in a very long time. So we are so happy to celebrate all these joyous occasions. And if you are new to Temple Shari Tefillah, if this is your very first time in our congregation, I invite you to please raise your hand. Wow, okay, this is incredible. We have a lot of new friendly faces, and for our familiar faces, for our regulars in our kahal, I invite you to please welcome our new faces. We're so delighted to have everyone who is here for the first time. Thank you for being with us. And please know that Shari Tefillah is always open to you. We would love to have you come back. Join us for lots of different celebrations, for Chagim. We love having new faces and familiar faces, and it's so wonderful to be able to be here together for Shabbat.
Please rise for Aleinu. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שטן שמני כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn now to our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we've drawn into our hearts with our own. As we remember the names of loved ones, if you hear the name of a loved one, we invite you please to stand. In the period of Shiva, we remember Barbara Lane, wife of Joe and mother of Deborah and Jennifer, Gloria Korenberg, mother of Jean Shapiro. In the period of Shloshim, in the last 30 days, we remember Marian Gubar, mother of Michelle Gubar, and Jane Sultan, a member of our congregation. We remember as well these yahrzeits, the anniversaries of their deaths that we are marking at this time. Joseph Barretts, Stuart Blitzstein, Stephen Broad, Ralph Carasso, Isaac Cavaliero, Sally Kogan, Dorothy M. Field, Irwin Fine, Evan Freeberg, Sarah Gersovitz, Judy Gollum, Nathaniel Gubar, Ruth Kamzin, Celia Karpatkin, Marilyn Kagan, Melvin Kaufman, Esther Kurtz, Benjamin Levy, Bernard Lowy, Catherine Minton, Alfred Montanus, Donna Newman, Leonid Nudelman, Oscar Rabinowitz, Minnie Rosenthal, Seymour Roth, Rose Schwartz, Erwin W. Skopp, Miriam Siller, Saul Siller, Max Spice, Manya Weinstein Steinkohler, Ruth Stolitsky, Mildred Stoller. If there are others that you're remembering, we invite you please to rise and mention your loved one's name aloud. Zichronam Libracha, may their memories live as an enduring blessing to you all. We remember as well those who have no one left to say Kaddish for them. In that spirit, we rise together as a community. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mavarach le'alam lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemed kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Please be seated. I'm going to move.
Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
Just a few brief announcements before I invite D.A. Bragg to join us here on the Bima. Mazel tov to Sloan and mazel tov to Kate on this great occasion. Thank you for leading us tonight. Thank you for leading us tomorrow and for taking your place as the newest young adults in our Jewish community. It is a big deal for your families. It's a big deal for this congregation and for the Jewish people. So thank you. Mazel tov again to Ruth and Saren, and thanks to them for sponsoring tonight's Oneg. We're grateful to them. There are all kinds of things going on in the congregation. I hope you'll check them all out in the weekly. We have our annual High Holiday Food Drive. It's really important, and I finally had something to repent for on Yom Kippur because I forgot to mention it on Rosh Hashanah. So please help me out with my repentance by being generous with our High Holiday Food Drive. All the details are in the weekly. You order online, and it gets sent right to, did I get that right, Carol? I sent that, it all gets sent exactly where it needs to go, so please help us out with that. And also pick up a packet of postcards at the Oneg that you can write to remind voters to vote in the upcoming critical vote in Virginia. We hope that you'll help us with our civic engagement efforts. We're offering a new online program in partnership with Dorot for folks in the community who are aging alone. If you are such a person or you know such a person, please check out the details in the weekly. Cantor Kipnis and I will be involved in those sessions, and we hope that many members of our community will benefit from that program as well. Religious school starts soon. If you haven't signed up, please do that. And there's lots of holidays coming up. Please stay with us all the way through Sukkot and Simchat Torah. The gates don't really close until the end of the season when we unroll the Torah around the sanctuary and celebrate and dance together. So thanks for all of that. And it's my great honor to take a moment to introduce our guest and to invite him forward. Alvin Bragg Jr. is the 37th District Attorney elected to Manhattan. A son of Harlem who served as both a state and federal prosecutor, Alvin has spent more than 2 decades fighting to make our community safer and our criminal justice system fairer. He's the first black Manhattan DA in the history of the office. Prior to his election as DA, Alvin served as an assistant attorney general at the New York State Attorney General's office and as assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. After his government service and before being sworn in as district attorney, Alvin was a visiting professor of law and co-director of the Racial Justice Project at New York Law School. In that role, he represented Eric Garner's mother and sister in a lawsuit against the city of New York, seeking details concerning Mr. Garner's death. Alvin earned his A.B. from Harvard University, a J.D. from Harvard Law School, and clerked for the Honorable Robert P. Patterson, Jr. in the Southern District of New York. He is a former member of the Board of Directors of the New York Urban League and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and a Sunday school teacher at his church, which is awesome, and I want to ask him about that. Can you please help and welcome D.A. Bragg to Charlotte Tequila? D.A. Bragg reached out to me after there was some anti-Semitic graffiti on the walls of our synagogue. So you should know that people have said, how did this come to be that we have the honor of having D.A. Bragg? He started it by reaching out to us and expressing his concern, and we're grateful to him. We're grateful that you offered to come join us on Shabbat. Grateful that your team could join us as well. I want to start with Sunday school at Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. Can you say a word about the role of faith and the role that faith plays in your life?
Sure. Well, I'm so humbled to be here. So thank you for the warm reception. And I'm going to say, actually, you started it because your reputation and prior work with Mike Mead on my team on gun violence is what your name is.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, and I hope I'm getting it right. The prayer of the heart.
Yes.
It was for me sort of was thinking about just gratitude and humility of being here. And it does go back to Sunday school, which for me starts as being a Sunday school student when I was your ages, and just the sort of the something larger than us, and so being in this space is quite humbling. As I was telling someone before the service started, I now teach the high school class, and so I have 2 teenagers of my own, so that is in and of itself humbling.
Does that qualify you to be a teacher of teenagers? I don't know.
It may disqualify me. I started teaching Sunday school about 20 years ago,
okay,
so before I was disqualified. Okay. But it is the best hour of my week, and it has been for some time. I would say during the past couple of years, particularly since I've been in office. Anyone who knows teenagers, they care not that I'm the district attorney of Manhattan, and that's great for me and for them. And we just explore, and I'm far from a theologian, but someone who cares deeply about our kids. These kids are about the same age of my older child, so I've seen them grow up, and it's grounding. I mean, and obviously we have separation of church and state, but I think it certainly informs the work I do now, the work I have done, and I have an expression in the office. Bring your whole self to work, whatever that may be, and all of the sort of beauty of the diversity of Manhattan. And so for me, that certainly includes, bringing my faith and being informed by it as I have been since I was your ages.
Awesome. Thank you so much. When I was thinking about, you generously offered to come, and I thought that there could be no more perfect evening than tonight, in which we sit between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this period of self-reflection and repentance and beginning again. I think most of us who are amateurs think of your work, and maybe this is I don't know how you'd think about it, but as being in the holding people accountable for their actions business, which is really, really important and critical work. And as we sit in this moment, this sacred time on the Jewish calendar, I'm wondering how you think about the work that you do in terms of how it helps with the possibility of repentance and transformation and beginning again and restorative justice.
Wow. So, no easy questions. But a really fundamentally important one. You mentioned that I was a federal prosecutor and a state prosecutor at the Attorney General's office, and I loved those jobs. They were intellectually challenging. I think we did very impactful work. What is so special about, and I know I met someone who's a Queens Assistant District Attorney, so this is not a monopoly we have in Manhattan. This is work that's being done throughout the city and really throughout the country. But we are where the humans are, right? Where we do about 30,000 cases a year. Most of them involve an identifiable victim, someone who has been harmed. All of them involve someone who's been accused of a crime. And so for me, and I think for probably all of the folks here from the office, it does start with the wholeness of the victims that we serve, and focusing on them. And there's I think we're building cases, and so everything is evidence in a way. But to look at the people who come before us and restoring them to the extent we are capable of doing that, I think one of the most important parts of the office is our witness aid services unit. So we've got about 500 lawyers, but we have a great group of counselors, advocates, social workers who are working day in and day out on that restoration. Someone who's been assaulted, someone who's had their money taken from them, someone who's had property taken from them, and working with them so that they're not just sort of going through this process. 30,000 cases, it can be a process, but I tell the paralegals in the office, you are the face of the system to that victim. And so working on that is sort of, I think, the heart of what we do. And of course, trying to do it fairly, so for all the folks who are sort of accused, which is where we typically think about the restorative justice, and we put things in place that we are holding people accountable, but also recognizing their humanity.
So just on that point, the Torah in the Ark has this passage that always makes me think every time we read it. It says, Tzedek, Tzedek, Tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. And when a word in the Torah is repeated, it's like a flashing neon sign for the rabbis. Something is going on here. Why does it say the word tzedek twice? Why does it say the word justice twice? And there's, needless to say, because we're Jews, there's a lot of opinions about the answer to that question. But the one I think might be most relevant to our conversation is the argument that the rabbis make that you need to pursue justice with justice. Figuring out how to gauge the severity of the punishment so that it should fit the crime. And I know that's a challenge, I'm sure, in your work and conversation about your approach to that. I'm wondering at a higher level how you think about that.
So I like that expression. I love the. I may borrow that on Sunday. That sort of do justice through justice. Yeah. And that is the heart of what we're trying to do. There's a body of research that talks about our work depends upon community trust. Victims will not come forward, witnesses will not come forward if they don't trust us. And there's a body of research showing that trust is based upon sort of not just the end, but the process of doing justice. And so I mentioned our witness aid services unit as a part of that. We are, looking at, what sort of drives, crime. Is it a mental health issue? Is it a case where treatment may be warranted? But as you said, it's a tough, very fact-based endeavor, right? Because each case is different, and we need the accountability, right? Because ultimately, public safety is our ultimate lens, and sometimes that accountability will come through incarceration, and sometimes the accountability may come through something alternative. But without that accountability, we don't have safety. So that's at the heart of what we do. But if we get that accountability in sort of a way where we rush through, I think we lose the sense of trust, and then if we lose that, then we're done. Right.
Our connection in this round started with this incident of anti-Semitism here in New York. Seth mentioned the announcement yesterday of the work that your office has done to return looted art from Jews during the Holocaust, and speaking to a community, not all of Jews, but lots of Jewish people. And I'm wondering what you might say to us about the rise of anti-Semitism certainly in our country, but right here at home in New York.
And I think it's the right here at home in New York. I mean, if I've been here 50 years, it's just, we think of this, and I love this island. We think of it as a place where that shouldn't happen, but it's happening more and more. I mean, our hate crimes docket is higher than at any other time since the unit was formed. Relatively new unit, but still, it's staggering. Our prosecutions are up tremendously, and it is, people say I get a little wonky when I talk about this, but the preamble to the statute, the legislative sort of history, if you will, talks about hate crimes kind of tearing at the fabric of society, and I think that's true. An assault is terrible, a robbery is terrible, but if I do that assault because of your beliefs, if I do that assault because of how you look, I haven't just assaulted you, I've assaulted an entire community. And so we've seen the reverberation of that. We've really tried to respond to it by scaling up. So when I started, we had about 3 assistant district attorneys that were specifically trained in the hate crime statute. We've expanded that to 20. We had kind of same sort of constraints in terms of the investigators that were specifically sort of trained in it. We've expanded there. We went to the city council. I said, I won't take complete credit. We went to the city council and said, we need money to do this. And they gave us $1.7 million to expand our outreach, our investigative rigor, and ultimately to have lawyers focused on this. So it's a sad moment to meet, particularly sort of here and in 2023. But that's what we're doing, and as you said, sort of, accountability is the cornerstone of what we do. So we're working hard on this every day and trying to match, prosecutions, which, as I said, are up, with also education, which I think, doesn't solve the case yesterday, but may solve the case in 5 years from now. And so we're doing both. We're doing a lot of community outreach, and it's, anti-Semitic hatred is up, anti-AAPI hate crimes are up. Anti-Black hate crimes are up. I say, and I don't know if it's pithy, but it is a tie that binds. The folks who are doing the hate crimes. We have some cases where the same person has expressed animus to 3 different groups of people, and so in some ways, while it's sobering and tragic, it is unifying, in a way, and so. That may be a glass half full take, but in my line of work, we look for some glass half fulls, and that's sort of where we are. And you mentioned me reaching out. I think that's a big part of the role too, not just to do the work, but particularly with hate crimes, because there's a aloneness, and that's what I haven't had a hate crime, but I've certainly been called a racial epithet, and there's a sort of a sense that. No one cares other than maybe members of my own community. And so we've been trying to reach out and say, look, we're going to do the cases, but also know that we are with you. And so that's one of the reasons I reached out.
It's not a small thing. As Jews, we know what it's like to experience hate, and no one reaches out. No one pays attention. And other minority communities as well. So the work you do is important. The outreach that you do is important. And you're right, sometimes people who are carrying out acts of hate against one group are lumping us all in the same boat. And so on the one hand, there is solidarity in being in that way, but also it's true that when we have interfaith partners and partners from communities across the city and across lines of difference, it brings us strength as well, and the work that you do brings us strength as well. So thank you for what you do. I want to touch for a minute on gun violence in particular. Hear a little bit about what your office is doing in this regard. I'm a longtime national co-chair of a gun violence campaign that is focused on holding the worst dealers accountable at the source for the distribution of guns that end up in our city. So whether it's that or other strategies, I'm curious if you could say a word about how you think about and how you're working on the issue of gun violence.
So this is our number one issue, perhaps in the country, but certainly in Manhattan, and you know it better than most. You know, it's where the guns are coming from. So we're doing gun trafficking cases. Guns are not, traditional guns are not made in Manhattan, not made in New York State. Excuse me. So we've got a specific focus on kind of wiretap investigations, looking at guns that come into the city. It's hard because if you think about how porous it is in terms of coming in. So it's coming in by car, by train, by bus, in backpacks, in trunks. So we're doing that work. It feels like an uphill climb, but I think it's important to sort of increase the transaction costs, if you will. I think we do a couple of wiretap cases, and my hope is that everyone who's doing gun trafficking is then thinking we're listening at their phones, and they too will be held accountable. So that's a big piece of the work. One encouraging bit of news, and I know you know this, but just to share, is that the gun violence is done by a really, really, really small percent of the population. And for the most part, we know who is doing it. And so every single day, and folks may recall when President Biden came and Mayor Adams hosted him at the sort of round table, and that was a very big meeting that day, but that group meets every single day, and it's the best partnership I've seen in law enforcement. It's federal, state, local, and we talk about the people who are driving gun violence and how to hold them accountable and build investigations. And I think that is that sort of rigor, that day in, day out, is what's helped us build cases. And the good news is both shootings and homicides are down about 20% year to date last year. They're down about I think another 15% this year. So, but it's really a sort of day in, day out work. And one other thing I'll mention that I'm very proud of is we have really robust kind of white collar tools in Manhattan, more than other places in the country. And so we've been using our white collar tools as well. So we did a case recently that was a financial fraud case of someone we strongly suspected was engaged in gun violence, but was relatively careful about that, but was not so careful about bragging about financial fraud on Instagram. And so we started there. And we said, we do a lot of financial fraud cases that are important in and of themselves. We said, well, let's focus there. We built the case, we brought charges, and we went to do a search warrant. And sometimes you design things and it happens just as you think it might. We went in, we recovered a gun, did ballistics tests, and were able to solve a shooting. And so just kind of thinking about this, just using sort of a multi-dimensional approach and sort of all of the tools in our toolkit.
Great. I want to pose one more question to you on the intersection of mental health and criminal justice, and then we'll see if we have time for one or two questions from the congregation. Our congregation is a part of Manhattan Together, which is a multi-faith organization that works to address issues of common concern from all of our communities in Manhattan across the city. Last week, I think, folks from our Manhattan Together team met with a team from your office to discuss creating a roadmap to tackle our city's cohabiting mental health and criminal justice crisis. And we're entering into discussion with various industry professionals and other district attorneys' offices. We found there hasn't been a mapping of the existing services and needs to have a comprehensive community mental health system for New York City. Our goal is to enter into partnership with your office and other DA's offices to fund a study of the existing services. And with these findings, we believe the city and state can help more accurately target where we most need to build up the infrastructure of support to accomplish a safer and healthier New York. We want to thank you and your staff for talking to us about it. I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts tonight a little bit about how you think of this intersection of mental health and criminal justice.
It may be the single most important issue that kind of pervades all of our work. I often, and I will invite all of you, if you come down to criminal court in Manhattan or really any part of the city, on any given morning, you'll sort of see the brokenness of our mental health care systems with who is presenting there and how they are presenting. And so this intervention, this sort of partnership, I think is really, really critical We've done a number of things to have things in sort of in motion to address this. So we just committed $9 million to navigators, $6 million of navigators who are going to be out in communities trying to connect people. So having the map of sort of, other services is great, but not us, we don't have this kind of core competency in the district attorney's office, so we have a NGO who's going to do it, but we're connecting people to services, and then another $3 million for people who are in the courtroom. And typically what happens if someone is on a misdemeanor and is released, and they say, oh, well, you can come back to this service in 3 days at 4:30, and this is someone who does not have Outlook, does not have a phone, may not have a home, and so to put the services right there at arraignment when someone we can really kind of use that moment. But at every single sort of the entire process, and I think the most important part of the process is the prevention end, to sort of so cases don't come to me, and the community navigators are going to be focusing on that. But we welcome the partnership, and I really like kind of all kind of interdisciplinary efforts. We did something up in Harlem on 125th Street and Lenox, where the business leaders came to us and said, look, there's some open air drug dealing, there's some significant mental health issues, there's some homelessness. Some of that was for my office, but a lot of it wasn't. And we all got together in a storefront and met very intensely. The DA's office, the police department, Department of Homeless Services, Department of Buildings, because a lot of it was taking place under illegal scaffolding, Department of Health, and it was that entire sort of effort of business, government, not-for-profits, all these different levers of government working together, and it really passed the eye test. And went back 6 months later, and we're like, so we're looking to take that around the borough as well, that approach.
What we've learned, and what you know, I'm sure much better than we do, is that people who are suffering with mental illness do not get the help they need for the most part in the criminal justice system. There are models around the country that do that in a much better way, and we see, I know you know these statistics much better than I do, that the recidivism rate of people who have mental illness is extraordinary, because they get into the jail system and they don't get the support they need. So there are models. We want to be partners with you in thinking through those and thinking about how we can get people both held accountable and also to get the help they need. So thanks for that. We have time for one or two questions. Here's the thing. They need to be questions. If you have a speech, we'll find another time for you to give a speech. That's good. But I'm going to ask if we have time for one or two questions for the DA.
The worst thing about Manhattan is Rikers Island. Why can that not be cleared up?
The question is on Rikers Island and the challenges there, and what can be done to address those challenges.
It's an important question. I spent an hour earlier today. We have about 60 or so new assistant district attorneys, and we do rigorous training. And today the training was on Rikers Island, and important for me that they know the conditions there. And we brought in someone who was on the kind of oversight board of corrections, and then 2 doctors who'd worked on Rikers Island to talk about, among other things, the mental health conditions there. Mm-hmm. It is deeply, deeply problematic. And as I'll kind of tell you what I told the assistant district attorneys, and then, depending on how much time I have, I can go into sort of what I think the prescriptions may be. But in terms of our work, what I told them is, look, there are cases, deep violence cases, where, that's our jail. People have to be sent there. It's tragic, but there are people that should not be in community with us. And then there are a bunch of other cases where there should be no detention. Our hard work at the DA's office, and it's something, and I looked out and it wasn't lost on me, and I don't want to be ageist, but I was looking out on a group of about 26-year-olds. That's the kind of our start age right out of law school. And I said, this is a great job. It's a profoundly important job. It's a hard job, because there are days when you have to make decisions, sort of in the gray cases of, where should someone be? A place that, as you completely appropriately describe, is a terrible, terrible place, or should they be out in community with us? It's a binary decision, And I think it's the hardest part of my job, hardest part of the jobs of the people I supervise. In terms of a longer prescription, the answer to me is clear. We need a lot more affordable housing. We need what I call a third lane. There are, as I said, people who should not be at Rikers and should not be out amongst us. They should be in a facility that provides wraparound services and the kind of treatment that we just talked about. There are some specific barriers to that. There's a federal law that caps Medicaid for such facilities at 16 beds. We need a lot more than 16 beds. I'm trying to think of other sort of quick ones, because this is a that's why we had an hour-long training on it today. But that is sort of, there's an everyday, heart-wrenching, gut-kicking set of decisions that we make. But what is so hard about it is, I think the answers are clear. We need affordable housing with wraparound services for, what was just said. We cannot have Rikers Island be the medical facility, particularly the mental health facility, and that's what's happened. And that's why, of the 3 speakers today, there were two doctors, because this is really comes down to sort of care and what should the continuum of care look like. So, giving you a long-term solution. Anyone who's knows anyone in Congress, give you sort of a the Medicaid fix, and happy to talk longer about it. But that's sort of the gray and tough decisions we live in, which is every day for us.
Carol. Can you say a word about how to think about where stabilization centers should be placed? I think we need a definition of what a stabilization center is. You and I have been in this conversation a lot, but not everybody has.
A stabilization center is a place where people who are struggling with mental health issues can go for a shorter period of time rather than be picked up and placed in a jail, which serves them nominally, or be dropped off at a hospital's ER, which could even be worse than being put in jail. So we have to identify where the best places are to classify those, but how can we do that?
So I'm not an expert in the siting. This is an issue I've thought about a lot in terms of the care and the sort of connection to our practice. So in matters that I'm not an expert on, I say I would defer to the experts, but I know that's an unsatisfying answer, so let me sort of hazard a little bit. One place, and I think your question contemplates someone who's not had any ongoing or recent interaction with the criminal justice system. One place for people who have had it, and we've talked about this in our office, and something that we are in the process of sort of brainstorming, is a place close to the courts, right? So when I mentioned earlier the $3 million commitment we've made to have someone in the courtroom to talk about connecting people to services. If there was immediate sort of stabilization resources, I guess I'll just be more specific. One thing we're brainstorming is a caravan right outside of court, right? Stabilization of providing a shower, providing a meal. So that is one location that we've thought about. In terms of throughout the island, I don't have specific thoughts. I would say, because I know it's an issue for certain neighborhoods, that we have to hold whoever is running the centers accountable for kind of neighborhood conditions. We have a few parts of the island where we have sort of oversaturation of the service providers, and I get a lot of comments from the neighbors about sort of how they are sort of treating the rest of the neighborhood, and so I think we have to also be mindful of that. But for me and our work, what we are sort of focused on is the folks who we see, and sort of in that moment, and again, this is mostly sort of our misdemeanor practice, where the most important thing to the person who's just arraigned, so we have their attention, maybe a shower and maybe a meal, and so a caravan really near the court is something that we're exploring.
Last question over there, Stuart, I think.
So, first of all, thank you for coming. I speak to a lot of people
So I'm going to push you on a question, Stuart, because we got to wrap up here.
What, if anything, is being done in order to deal with those types of issues?
What's being done in terms of quality of life crimes? Is that the question?
Aggressive panhandling, people walking the streets who are obviously out of their mind, things like that.
No, so.
Big crimes, but people are afraid of it.
And so I'll take both pieces of it, the substance and the perception. I think the first thing we have to do is acknowledge it, right? I mean, yes, I can say, and it's true, violent crime is down, and all of our index crime is down. But at the same time, it's true, we have a homelessness issue. We've talked about our mental health issues. We have a sanitation issue, and all of that, goes to the quality of life here. I mean, pre-COVID, our Manhattan numbers from tourism and commuters would swell to about 4 million, and that. We need that, right? We need that for the vibrancy of our economy. I think some of what we've talked about speaks to it. So, the mental health interventions, I talked about the kind of $6 million commitment for the neighborhood navigators, the caravan and some of the other interventions on mental health, the project that, we're talking about collaborating on, I think speaks to a lot of that. Other things that we are doing that I hear about, so I'll just sort of fill in the blanks, is the cannabis shops. We have more than 500 in Manhattan now. We just, prosecuted someone who's an owner of one who's responsible for 13. We plan to do a lot more of that. We're scaling that up, trying to not prosecute the store clerk who just happens to be there when a search warrant is effected, but to get to the owners of the stores, and in some instances, perhaps the owners of the real estate that are renting to the stores. So that's an issue that I hear about a lot in terms of their cash businesses. They sometimes attract violent crime, but just sort of the ubiquitous nature of them. I'm trying to think about other issues that are quality of life, but that is the one I hear sort of the most quality of life, or sort of the mental health issues we've talked about, the cannabis stores, and I guess the other is shoplifting, which we've been focused on, and it's an odd and coarse comparison, but not dissimilar to gun violence in that it's a very small percentage of the people engaging in that conduct that account for the overall conduct. So in shoplifting, the most recent data we have that we sort of paired with NYPD, of everyone sort of arrested for shoplifting, 18% of the people arrested account for more than 45% of the arrests. So we've been focusing there. We've been focusing our prosecutorial efforts there, and have been bringing cases, and then once we bring them, deciding what is to go back to what you say, to do justice through justice, not you, with the Torah says, right?
Yes, right, exactly.
But to then deliver the justice in a just way. So for some of those, that will be back to some parts of the conversation about mental health treatment, and for others who are engaging in it, brazenly, out of greed, it's the traditional incarceration. And I guess the last thing I'll say, I think, and this is something I did as a federal prosecutor, and something that we're bringing to bear on shoplifting through kind of our fencing investigations, or on cannabis through sort of, going up the chain to the owner, is I think a lot of these issues, if you follow the money, the money will lead you to the person who's the most culpable. I think we'll see that borne out with the cannabis shops. I think we see it with shoplifting. And then if you hold those persons accountable, you get real accountability, as opposed to sort of what is quicker and a little bit easier in some ways, which is the store clerk who happens to be there when we do the search warrant for the cannabis, or the one person who's shoplifting. Obviously, we're not ignoring it, but I think in terms of enduring quality of life, and I would say also public safety, that the mechanisms and the things we're working on, that we're building towards some enduring change on those issues.
We want to thank you for being here this evening. We're grateful for the work you do and for the partnership that is budding, and that we hope that we continue to collaborate on. Thanks for being with us. We're going to close with one more song, but for now, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oop, go ahead. We return. We return.
Return again.
return.
We return.
We return.
We return, return again and again to faith. 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 We return again to faith. We return.
We return.
We return.
We return.
We return, return again. We return.
We return.
We return.
We return.
We return, return again and again to justice.
Justice.
To
Justice. Justice. We return again to justice. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Chadesh yameinu kekedem. Yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai. Yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai. Yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai. Yalai lai 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 lai. We return. We return. We return, return again. We return.
We return.
We return. We return, return again and again to you. To you.
To
You. We return again to you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shana
shalom.
tova.
Shana tova.